Picture this. The year is 1346. A battlefield erupts into chaos. Steel clashing, men screaming, horses falling. Then you take an arrow through the shoulder. In that moment, you're no longer fighting for glory. You're fighting for your life, and your survival rests entirely in the hands of whoever finds you among the carnage. This is the world we're stepping into today on The Survival Historian. Medieval warfare was honestly a symphony of suffering, where the human body broke in ways both obvious and catastrophic. And yet, those tasked with healing these soldiers, monks, barber surgeons, and battlefield medics with barely any formal training, developed techniques that would, well, astound us. Some were shockingly effective, others were nightmarish. All were born from desperate necessity. What you're about to discover will challenge everything you thought you knew about medieval medicine. These weren't bumbling fools. These were survivors and innovators who understood one fundamental truth: adapt or watch your patients die. The battlefield is not a hospital, it's chaos, and the first task of any medieval surgeon was brutal pragmatism. In seconds, they had to decide who could be saved, who was dying regardless. These decisions were based on pure experience and, well, an understanding of human trauma. An open abdominal wound, move on, a limb shattered but the soldier still breathing. Here's where medicine began. The immediate goal was stopping the bleeding. Medieval surgeons knew this absolutely. Hemorrhage kills faster than anything else. The most dramatic method was cauterization, taking a blade heated in a blacksmith's fire and searing the wound shut. Picture it, a screaming soldier pinned down while a surgeon applies molten metal to torn flesh. It's barbaric by modern standards, but it worked. The heat sealed blood vessels and dramatically reduced the chance of immediate death. When cauterization wasn't practical, medieval medics employed tourniquets of cord or leather, twisting them tight around limbs, with a stick to cut off blood flow. This bought precious time, life-saving time to transport the wounded toward permanent care. The soldier might lose the limb later, but he'd live. Once bleeding was controlled, field dressings were applied with whatever materials were at hand. Strips of cloth moss plant fibers, broken bones were stabilized with rudimentary splints made from branches, bound with cloth. These were crude, but they prevented additional trauma from fractures grinding against soft tissue. The difference between recovery and amputation, between survival and shock-induced death. If you examined a medieval battlefield surgeon's kit, you'd find remarkable organization. Saws, knives, probes, and forceps, each with specific purpose, each connected to survival. The saw is, perhaps, the most haunting instrument. In a pre-antibiotic world, infection could just consume a limb in a matter of days. Gangrene was, well, death creeping upward. The medieval surgeon's response was radical. Honestly, remove the limb before infection spread. A surgeon would identify where tissue still appeared healthy, mark it, and then, often with the patient conscious, biting down on leather to muffle screams, begin sawing. Speed was really everything. A swift amputation might take just minutes. A slow one meant additional tissue death and, honestly, diminished chances of survival. Extracting projectiles posed some truly horrific challenges. An arrow embedded in flesh couldn't simply be pulled out. Doing so would tear additional tissue and reopen bleeding. Instead, surgeons developed techniques to carefully work around the shaft, expanding the wound slightly to extract the bolt intact. Probes and forceps served to explore wounds, to find foreign material, to assess damage beneath the visible surface. A surgeon's hands were their diagnostic tool. They had to learn to read the body through touch alone. What's remarkable is that these men understood at some level the principles of infection and the importance of cleanliness. Medieval texts describe washing wounds with water, sometimes with wine, providing some disinfecting properties. They recognized that pus was a sign of decay and death. They didn't understand bacteria, but they understood the empirical reality: clean wounds healed better than filthy ones. The medieval battlefield surgeon was not solely a butcher wielding blade and saw. He was a healer who understood the chemistry of the natural world. Medieval monastery gardens provided a sophisticated pharmacy. Sage treated infections. Honey was applied to wounds for its antimicrobial properties, and various plants addressed specific ailments. Medieval medicine existed in a world where spirituality and practicality were inseparable. A wound was not merely a physical injury, it was a spiritual trial. Prayers and religious rites accompanied every treatment. In modern terms, we might dismiss this as superstition. But consider the psychological reality. A soldier's belief in recovery, their trust in their healer, and their sense of spiritual protection all contributed to their will to survive. The mind is not separate from the body. As soldiers recovered, diet became critical. Those who survived the immediate trauma faced the long road of healing, and medieval medicine understood, imperfectly, the role of sustenance. Broths made from bone and marrow provided nutrients. Bread and ale sustained the wounded as they lay in monastery hospitals. Vegetables grown in monastic gardens supplemented recovery. It wasn't sophisticated nutritional science, but it was informed by generations of observation. Men who ate better recovered better. When historians examine survival statistics from medieval battlefields, the numbers are grim. Many wounded soldiers died, perhaps half or more. But here's what demands our attention. In an era without antibiotics, anesthesia, blood transfusions, or modern imaging, survival was possible at all. These medieval practitioners laid the groundwork for everything that came after. Their amputation techniques influenced surgical practice for centuries. Their recognition of infection planted seeds that would bloom into modern germ theory. Their use of natural remedies informed pharmacology. They were not fumbling fools. They were survivors who understood their desperate reality and rose to meet it with ingenuity. When we examine medieval battlefield medicine, we're examining the fundamental human drive to survive and to help others survive. These surgeons faced unimaginable conditions, chaos, suffering, limited tools, and the weight of knowing that every decision meant life or death, and they persisted. They adapted, they innovated, they saved lives. The humans who came before us faced worse with less and still found ways forward. Resilience, pragmatism, and a refusal to surrender in the face of agony are ancient virtues. They are deeply human. If this journey through the brutal ingenuity of medieval medicine has moved you, like and share this video with anyone who has a taste for real history that shows us who we are in our desperate moments. Subscribe to The Survival Historian for more explorations into the ways humans have endured, adapted, and survived across the centuries. Remember, survival is a story written in our blood, our ingenuity, and our will.